Hello YouTube, Adzi here again. This is a Tokyo Marui G3 SAS. Now, this was originally a rental gun at one of the airsoft sites I've been playing at for many years. Now, this probably goes back from before I started playing, so this goes back before 2006, just to give you an idea of how old it is. Now, I've got to a point where I think let's do something with it, because it's been sitting in my little armoury for years. Now, I've got to a point where I've got this, and I think we should put one of those in it. For no other reason than just because it's here, that's here, why the hell not? To make that work though, I think we're going to need to put one of these in, amongst other things. So should we do that and see what happens? But before we get into that, let's just see what it does at the minute. Now, I've put an 11.1 in it, purely because, yeah, it's probably not a good idea because it's all on its original standard internals. However, if we break it in this instance, it doesn't bloody matter because we're going to do loads of stuff inside it anyway. So, you'll have to excuse the chrono. This is my old trusty one with a cable attached to it, because the other one's broken. So, but this works nonetheless. So yeah. So this is running on 0.2s and an 11.1. And it's only making half a joule, 234 feet per second. Two, 3, 1. And the full auto. So 236 still, and that's currently doing 19.6 rounds per second. So see if we can make that a bit better. Okay, so there's inside the gearbox. Now there's a number of things we should probably do, as well as just dropping in a DSG gear and putting a MOSFET in here. So we're going to try and keep it as simple as we can, because I don't want to put too much into this, but we need the essentials to make sure it's going to work. So first of all, we have plastic bushings, classic Marui standard that is, which is absolutely fine for the standard gun, but we're about to put it under a lot more punishment than what it's ever seen before. So we're going to upgrade those. We're also going to upgrade the piston. That's already started wearing there, look. So that's just years of use on a plastic tooth, eventually wears it out. It's always gonna. But what we're about to do to it would cut that thing in half in no time. So let's get rid of that. We're gonna make sure everything's shimmed. Now, I might try and be lazy and see if I can use the DSG with the gears that are already on here, provided they're the same ratio, which they should be. We'll check that and we'll see if we can get away with keeping them too. Cylinder's probably going to be right. We might try and modify the tappet plate to be functioning with a DSG as well. And I may change these just to help with all the air seal as well. But we're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. So we're putting as minimal parts in this as we absolutely need to. So we've stripped everything out. I've cleaned everything, so everything's all nice and fresh. I've even radiused the gearbox on both sides. That's just going to aid with kind of displacing the force of the piston coming forward. So hopefully that should protect the gearboxes a bit better. So both sides cleaned and fresh, gears all cleaned up. They'll all go in nicely. So we're just going to get some not bearings, so we're going to put bushings in there because they're more durable. We want durability on this. And then we're going to shim all them in before we fit all the other bits. So that is now the gearbox all shimmed. So we've got some new 6mm bushings in there, that metal ones, just in case you're wondering what ones I've used in it. I haven't got anything elaborate. It's basically a pack of element bushings. So nothing too costly, just to keep everything real simple and keep the cost down. Now they've all gone in there, all shimmed in nicely. Now whenever you do your final check, what I like to do is pin the gearbox shut, like it would be when it's in the gun, so that you know when you're testing those gears and you'll see if there's any wobble, you know it's going to be sitting as it would be sitting in the gun. So that now they spin nice and freely and they're not wobbling about. So they're done. But what we are going to do before we unpin this, we're going to get our chosen piston, which is that, because that has a full metal rack on it. And we're just going to make sure that with the gearbox shut, that is going to fit. Because not every single piston is going to be a nice simple drop in. Now that, make sure the teeth aren't in the way initially, that is nice and smooth in the shell, because sometimes you'll find they're tight. And then the other thing I like to do is make sure, if we spin the gears onto it, that the gears will pick it up and rotate nicely with it, because sometimes they get stuck. So that's now on the gear. So yeah, that is all nice and smooth. So that piston is going to be absolutely fine in that gearbox with those teeth. So we've got to this stage. So we've got our chosen piston. Put a nice lightweight piston head on it. We have got all the gears in there nice and shimmed. So we saw that earlier. And I've changed the nozzle. So that one was the original one. Now that didn't offer any, it wasn't amazing air seal. So we've done that just to make things better. That is also about 0.2 to 0.3 of a mil shorter than that. Now, the reason we've done that is because I can get away with that one, but it's still making contact with the back of the hot rod of the air seal, but it just buys that every fraction of room for allowing the BBs to be loading. Now in something like this, I would imagine with as fast as it's going to be going, hopefully, we're going to need as much space as we can get the BBs feed. Hence me doing these little modifications on these sector chips. So I have set those up so that as that rotates round, that's going to be picking up that tappet plate, pulling it back, as well as the piston, pulling it back. Now it's going to be holding it back at its furthest point for a slightly extended period than what just the normal pin would do, because even if I'd have left that bit longer, the shape of it changes and it starts to creep forward. I want it all the way to the back for as long as possible, but without leaving too long a time. So that's going to drop that there. We're going to put a nice big strong spring in that, so it's going to ram that all the way back to the front. And we've still got a little bit of time whilst that piston's cranking backwards for that bit to have got in position before the piston is released. And that's going to be coming forward. The only thing is then we have got a very minimum amount of time before it's going to be wanting to pick it back up again. So that's going to drop the piston there. That's then going to be picking that back up. So hopefully with a nice big spring, that's going to reset that, fired the chambered BB. Before that, is going to be picking it up and doing the whole cycle all over again. So have we got it right? I don't know. We'll find out when we've got it back together though. So the next task is going to be fitting said MOSFET. So obviously everything at this point is nice and clean and completely free of grease, so we don't contaminate the actual circuit board. The first step we're going to do is make sure that when that goes in, that sits nice and flush. Hopefully, just like this one, you'll be lucky and it'll just drop straight in. So it's nice and flush on the back side down there and it's sitting flush on there. So we're going to get that screwed in, get all the wires nice and neat, and then that'll be that fitted. So everything's now to this stage, all back in the gearbox. We put a bit of grease on it, not too much because we don't want it flicking off and going all the sensors. I've put a smaller spring through the tappet plate spring there, which is the same idea, just it doubles that up to give that a bit more strength to pull it forward quicker. We're going to use an M150 spring and we're going to bin off the old plastic spring guide just in case that dies. And I've got a much stronger, much more durable metal one here with the ball bearings on it, which is just going to give the spring a little bit more flexibility when that's in there, in case that wants to twist and turn whilst it's being pushed back and forward. So let's put it back together and see if what we've actually done here is actually going to do what we want it to. So it's all back together and built. Now we're going to connect just an 11.1 LiPo. We'll start as we need to carry on. Put that on there. Now, I've already set the MOSFET in this to the DSG setting so that the gun knows it's got a dual sector gear. So if you're doing it, don't forget to change that, because I have no idea what that would do to it. Might not hurt it, it might do, but who knows. So we've set that. The other thing I have done initially, just whilst we're testing this, is I have reduced the rate of fire by the maximum that the MOSFET let us do, only because I want to get it all in the gun, get it feeding, get it shooting, and then we can push the rate of fire back up to see where we get to. And at the minute as well, this is just on the standard TM motor, one of the EG 1000s that this would have come with. So the motor itself is years old, so I'm not expecting top performance on it, but let's get it running like that. Then let's start cranking it up, maybe a new motor, more rate of fire. Let's see where we go. So at the minute, it functions. So we're not mental yet, but we'll increase all that and we'll see what happens once we've got it going. So my next step now is going to be to set up the barrel how I want it with the hop, and get it all back in the gun, and we'll see if it fires, we'll see if it feeds, and let's go from there. And then for the barrel part, all we've done is a quick clean all through, so the barrel's all nice and fresh and no dirt in there. We have put one of the 60-degree yellow maple leaf Macron buckings on there, and of course we'll use that with an Omega nub, because I like these rubbers. I think these are bloody brilliant. Now, let's put all this in, we'll put it all in the gun, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're at the point for testing it for the first time. So I've got everything rebuilt. I have got 11.1 battery on it, just because. 0.2 gram BB's in here. So first of all, we'll try it on semi. Now bear in mind, all the rate of fire at the minute is turned right down, just because I want to test it, make sure it's functioning before we go cranking it up. So, let's see. Well, that's a good start. Let's try this. Okay, so power-wise so far, we've got 263 feet per second, so it's only 0.65 joules at the minute. But let's try the full auto and see what it does. Okay, so that maintained the same feet per second, which is good, because it means we've got some of the timing right for the speed we're running at the minute. And that's currently doing 27 rounds per second. That's with the speed all turned down. One thing I will perhaps try and change, I'm going to put a different barrel in, just to see if we can make any improvements on the standard barrel that's in there, get something a bit tighter. Hopefully we can get the air behind the BB, not flying past it, and get that power up ever so slightly. Okay, so we've now swapped out the barrel. That's the original one. We've put in one of the ZCI 6.02s, and it's only a fraction shorter than this. I think it was a 200mm one. But that's gone in there. That's got the same 60-degree Macron Hop rubber. So let's give that a test now and see what that does. So semi first of all. That's really good. So first thing we've noticed, we've got a massive jump in power. We've got 342 feet per second at 1.08 joule. One more test to see it's not a fluke. Whoops, slightly over on that one, so 353. So we're going to touch over. However, the full auto, now bear in mind this is still on its reduced setting. So that has just gone through at 334 feet per second, 1.04 joules, which is 29.4 rounds per second. So let's see if we can crank it up and get a better score. Now the MOSFET's been turned up to full throttle, so we're going to see what this is capable of. Now bear in mind this is obviously still on the original motor, so we haven't changed that bit yet. We've got the dual sector gear controlled by the Perun, new barrel in there, M150 spring, new piston head. So let's see what this will do through the chrono whilst it's at absolute maximum. Right, so that has just gone through the chrono at 347 feet per second, doing 43 rounds a second. I'm going to count that as a win. So what we'll do now just to show that it's not a fluke and that I haven't got some sort of blag going with the chrono here, we're going to fire that at a target just so you can see that there are actually BBs coming out of it. I say target, I mean a bit of cardboard, but you know what I mean. So here we go. So there you have it, my first attempt at doing a DSG build. I think it went quite well. We turned what was an old rental gun into a gun that would probably get you banned from most sites if you tried using it. Now we used kind of minimal parts to do it because I wanted to kind of keep the sort of overall cost to the whole thing down, because that's what I like to do. We've done a new piston head, we put some new bushings in there. Of course we've got the DSG gear. We put some little sector chips which we shaped to get the timing right for the tappet plate, and of course we've got the Perun in there just to make sure everything's controlled properly. So I hope you enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.